In my earliest of years, I was starting to develop as, the person I am now. I feel different now, but as with all toddlers, the barest bones of who he grew up to be form in those early stages. Now I'd like to touch on my life in nursery, and it was quite strange, to say the least. Well, I was of course very clingy. I didn't want to leave my family to go in there. I'm much like a lot of other people, but that can often be a symptom in those early separation anxiety, because people like me often learn to adjust the closest ones to them as their world, and being sucked out of that world can create difficulties. It doesn't help when you make new relationships and start to cling on to those types of connections in desperate times. It's not particularly helpful, because people being people will want to break those relationships. And speaking of which, my first few friends at nursery in my earliest years were all girls. And I've always found it more comfortable to speak of girls than boys. I'm not sure which factors contribute to that most effectively, but that's always been true to me, at least. But I know the first friend I had, of course, anonymously on this thing, I will not name them. The first friend I ever had, I know that in those early days it was blind, but I had this enormous capacity for blind love. And I used to anyway. And I wanted to follow them wherever they went. I tried to teach them my way of life. I played games with them. I wanted to do every single task with them. But that also meant when anyone else wanted to get into the picture, a younger version of myself got very possessive. And in a real world application, that's where things can start getting difficult. The bigger picture must start to make sense now in terms of things seeming difficult and problematic. I used to play in the same places all the time. An order, which now on the channel is more evident than ever, an early attribute of mine. Everything had to be orderly. I can only imagine at the time, with the plastic cookies and the cookie stalls, I can only imagine at the time the idea was, okay, I will play with the cookie stalls on Tuesday, and I will only be at the cookie stalls on Tuesday. I'll decide to paint on Wednesdays, and that is all I will do on Wednesdays, and keep everything in a box so that my world made some sense. No complications, no worries. And at the time, for a simple young boy, it made sense. Everything did. Not anymore. But those stories are worth locking away in a box for another time. Finally, on a more humorous note to end on, it'd be necessary to know that I was scared of the most simple things that didn't register with me right. One of which would be a sticker with a spider on it on the inside of a toilet. And I was so scared to do my business of any kind in said toilet because of the spider sticker, which is encouraging toddlers at the time anyway where to aim when, number ones. And I was so scared of this one sticker that on multiple occasions my mum was called in because I had excreted over the floor of the cubicle rather than sat on the pot. It's not one of my most glamorous stories, but yeah, if that can give you into an insight of a young boy's mind, a young Matthew May's mind, then that can make some sense. It sounds strange, and as I said in the previous episode, it must seem jarring to look into someone else's shoes, but it's easy to see in those early years how you can become the person you are now. It's quite easy.